Hello, I'm Catalina Gillies, and welcome to this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. You could call it the undercard fight in the lead up to Thursday's federal leaders debate, as all 5 of the candidates vying to represent the Kenora riding faced off at the only in-person event in the region. Adam Riley was there, and he has the details.
It was a fairly sized and socially distanced crowd this week at the Seven Generations Educational Institute, who gathered to see and hear what Conservative incumbent Eric Melillo, Liberal David Bruno, New Democrat Janine Seymour, the Green Party's Remy Rowe, and the PPC's Craig Martin had to say as they squared off on the issues that matter to the region. Hosted by the Kenora District Chamber of Commerce, pre-selected topics by the Chamber included climate change.
The Liberal government will also invest $8 billion to accelerate the green jobs and green industry strategies to continue investing in funds so that we get to reduce our footprint, our carbon footprint. We will develop a tax investment credit up to 30% for a range of clean technologies, including low carbon technologies with input from external experts.
Anything you can do with fossil fuels and anything you can do right now can be done with alternative energies. A good example, in Sweden, they're making steel that has no coal and no coke. If they can do it there, we can do it here. We just need to tap into it. We need to fund it properly.
The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People.
We will work to abolish the UNDRIP legislation, and we'll work to abolish the Indian Act. We'll work with First Nations leaders to provide a Fair Governance Act, which they will work with providing fair governance to all nations across the country. And
local housing and homelessness.
If we have more federal land for residential development, and that would be aiming to release 15% of federal real estate for federal development, because when we look at the issues of affordable housing across our region, it's really all about supply. There's not enough supply keeping up with the demand, and that's exactly what our party will address.
However, time was also given for residents to ask the candidates where they stood on other issues, including the overrepresentation of racialized individuals in jails.
Judicially, there's minimum sentences that judges must impose, and that's mandated. And that binds the judge from a creative solution that might help somebody instead of jail them. If judges can't do their job, where do we find ourselves? That's what we've tasked them to do. So let's support our judges who are trying their best under restrictive legislation.
Advanced polls across the district begin this weekend, and Election Day is set for September 20th. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Meanwhile, a candidate in the Kenora riding is speaking out following an incident where she says she was groped while campaigning in the region. In a tweet posted last weekend, NDP candidate Janine Seymour states she was shaken by the incident. Seymour is speaking out after seeing a similar tweet from a female candidate in Kitchener about unwanted sexual advances and realizing she isn't alone in these types of experiences. She hopes this will make others aware of this issue and let other candidates and their teams know of some of the hazards that are appearing this election cycle.
We don't want anybody to be unsafe, anybody on our team, anybody on another team, any other candidates, and we don't want anybody to experience anything harmful to happen while we're out campaigning, which is part of the process. Things happen, right? And you have to learn how to cope with that in a good way. In a good way, I mean a way that I don't carry it. Personally, I actually went to Wabagoon powwow, and that was very healing for me.
Seymour says she reached out to Kenora Conservative candidate Eric Melillo shortly after it happened to be in solidarity on the issue. In a statement, Melillo says he was horrified to hear of this incident and that no one should be subjected to this kind of behavior. Liberal candidate David Bruno called the incident shocking and appalling, adding that it is un-Canadian. And Green candidate Remy Rowe says this form of behavior should never be tolerated within a just society. This week, we're profiling the candidates vying for the Thunder Bay Rainy River seat. Liberal incumbent Marcus Pulowski says he has more to do in the House of Commons and hopes to earn enough votes to continue that work. Ryan Benazzo has more.
It's
It's a different type of campaign for Liberal Marcus Pawlowski the second time around, not just because of the global pandemic, but because he's now the incumbent in Thunder Bay Rainy River. The former ER doctor says he's thoroughly enjoyed his first 2 years in Parliament, and he has unfinished business to attend to within the riding and well beyond its borders.
Our efforts to help the Afghan interpreters and other Afghans who are trying to flee from the Taliban, which is something I started actually 2 years ago, and really the results of that work have only come to fruition recently with our government becoming a lot more involved in dealing with this process.
Pawlowski took the riding in 2019 by more than 2,300 votes. He says the broad knowledge he's gained since then makes him the best choice to continue to represent the riding going forward.
Practically any topic under the sun may fall on your desk as being the Member of Parliament. So you got to be interested in a whole bunch of things. 2, you have to have a certain intellectual rigor to actually pursue those things and figure them out. For example, like, what's the problem with Bombardier? Why can't we get the contracts?
Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
The NDP's Yuxem Wan is one of 2 people back on the ballot for a second time. She's hoping to turn the riding orange once again after a 6-year gap since John Rafferty held the seat for the New Democrats. Corey Nordstrom has that candidate profile.
Yuxem Wan garnered just under 30% of the votes in the 2019 election. The NDP candidate for Thunder Bay Rainy River is strongly against this election in what she calls a power grab by Justin Trudeau, though Wan did plan on running again in the natural election cycle in 2023.
If they want me to have a shot at the job now, I'm here for it, and I'm here for the people, making sure they know that I'm still here to give them voice, to represent the North, and not just have a whole bunch of empty promises and not show up.
Wan has stayed active in the community as much as she can through the pandemic in an effort to relay local voices to party members in the House of Commons.
It's really about right across Canada having that input of what's going on, feet on the ground. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Even for 2 years, we didn't get out into the communities, but we still had connections. And that to me is important, to provide that information, whether I'm an MP or not.
As she looks to improve upon her third-place finish from 2019, she knows that what voters want will need to remain at the forefront of her thought process. With a riding that spans almost 40,000 square kilometers, she wants those in government to remember that rural voices matter just as much as those in cities.
Things I think that I want to ensure is that the North has a voice.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
Adelina Pecchia is a first-time candidate for the Conservative Party. The ordained reverend is hoping her values will help propel her to victory in a riding that typically leans Liberal or NDP. Once again, here's Corey Nordstrom.
As a first-time candidate in the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding, Conservative Adelina Pecchia is confident that she can change the voting habits of locals and also bring change to Ottawa.
I've been hearing a lot of things about housing costs, loss of jobs, the economy. So I would like to see renewal, growth, and the implementation of the Disability Act, where we will be doubling the benefits for those on disabilities.
Born in Italy and raised in Fort William, Pecchia believes her core values will separate her from other candidates.
I care and I'm compassionate. I believe in equity, equality, and I love Thunder Bay, Rainy River. This is my hometown. This is where I grew up. I know the needs of this area.
The professional life of Pecchia has been as a reverend across Canada, including a stop in Marathon. Her time in the North Shore town showed the challenges that are being faced in many smaller municipalities.
There's a lot of places in Thunder Bay, Rainy River riding where businesses are shutting down and a lot of factories are shutting down. And so people are worried about their jobs.
Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
And coming up after the break, we'll take a look at more candidates in the Thunder Bay Rainy River riding.